Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. Thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Marco.
Sean.
Sometimes there's a good reason to be on the other side of the boat, the bottom side of the boat.
To collect the trash?
Exactly. So I'm not saying you're trash.
That's why you never allow me on your boat, because I wasn't collecting the trash?
That's right. You're always just throwing stuff over. I don't know. I couldn't stop you.
That was a while back. I'm sure now there
didn't
are.
throw anything over.
No, I know, but there are solutions now. Maybe you just tie a little robot to your boat, and as you go, it collects not only your trash but also other people's trash. How about that?
Yes.
Is that an idea?
Well, I've certainly been out in the body of water and have seen trash and have picked it up, and that can only scale so much. Me as an individual snagging a water bottle off the ocean.
Well, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in Venice or cities like in Holland? Maybe where there is a lot of water in the city, canals.
I have been, and I can imagine there's a lot of stuff in there, bottles and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how is the trash service works there? I gotta be on boat.
You just drive
gondolas. I'm thinking gondolas. Well, we're joking here, but for people watching the video, we're not alone. Although we could go forever, Sean and I, on this.
You're feeling bad for Alistair.
Well, we didn't even tell him that we were gonna do something stupid to start with. So he doesn't know. He's like, where am I here?
That's right. Why am I here?
You are in Redefining Society, and we're going to talk about interesting things, I believe.
Yes. So welcome, Alistair Longman.
Yeah, welcome.
Ranmarine.
Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you so much, Marco. It's a real pleasure to be here, and always great to hear the banter in the beginning. And, appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah,
we set the bar low to start. It could only go up from here.
Well, let me do my job. So this is this channel is Redefining Society, where we look at the things that in technology are driving changes in our society, and even better, when our society is looking at needs that we have, and we use technology or even invent and think about technology so that we can resolve some problem. Trash is definitely one of that. It's connected with the environment. We like to think about what the future looks like. Robotics, AI, smart cities, and artificial intelligence. And I think they all converge eventually, or maybe they should converge into something that is beneficial for each one of us. And sometimes you can take an application that is very specific, thought for a particular environment. We were mentioning, the city with canals, and we'll explain what you actually do, and how we can actually think at a higher level on how this example could be an example for many other solutions that we can find in our cities, in our environment, and where we live. So this is the intro. Now let's dive in. Let's start with you. Introduce yourself, what you do, and what are we going to talk about today?
Awesome. Thanks, Marco. And thank you so much for having me on your show. So I'm Alistair. I work at a company called Ranmarine Technology based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And essentially what we do at Ranmarine in a very simple way is we design robots that clean out water, pretty much like these robotic vacuum cleaners that you see in everyone's house these days. We have a solution for near coastal and inland waterways and lakes and rivers. And essentially our device is called the WasteShark. It's designed on the whale shark, which you find in nature. It's got a big mouth and it collects floating trash of water as it moves forward in the water. And the The vessel itself can be operator driven with a radio control transmitter, or you can also send it out on autonomous routes to go and collect trash by itself, and it follows a path that you can make up with waypoints, and it will carry on through the water and collect the trash. One of many solutions that have been developed in the Netherlands. I think the most famous Dutch solution for dealing with trash in the water, of course, is the ocean cleanup, and we stay super close to them, and we're super excited about the awesome work they're doing. They're tackling the big stuff out in the ocean, and we're trying to catch it before it gets out into the ocean. And the WasteShark itself is not a big vessel. It's designed to be unobtrusive and to be able to work in areas with quite a lot of traffic. And more than that, it's designed to get into kind of difficult to reach areas, behind boats, between boats, under jetties, close to quaysides, maybe where those big cleaning boats can't get to. And we feel we have a scalable solution in the sense that you can deploy a whole bunch of them. They can work almost 24/7 and just take out trash while everyone's sleeping. So that's essentially the WasteShark. Yeah.
So let's talk about the problem. I don't know if you have any information on how much of an issue waste is. I mean, we can all say it sucks, right? And we know it's bad, as Marco was kind of alluding to earlier.
Sure.
But do we know, is it impacting tourism in certain areas? Is it impacting wildlife and maybe commercial fishing or things like that? And any insights into what some of the impact this is, having waste in the water?
Yeah, so I think there's a heck of a lot of good literature out there that's based on good science, which shows that plastic waste in the environment is a huge problem and a growing problem. I think, I can't reel off numbers at the moment, but there's billions of pounds of trash that are entering our oceans every day. Maybe not billions every day, but certainly billions every year. And most of that's from land-based sources, and most of it's coming through rivers and streams. And I think I read a statistic the other day that you can detect microplastics in something like 80% of seafood that we take out of the water. We don't know exactly what those microplastics mean for human health in the long term, but I imagine it can't be good, and probably not great that we don't know.
I was actually reading, listening to something about they call it the forever plastic. That pretty much they don't decay, they don't dissolve, and they pretty much come into your body and the food and everything.
Passed down through the food chain.
They just
and generations.
Yeah.
Probably that just passed down through generations and generation, like culture. Now, I like the idea of what you guys are doing, because it kind of inspired the conversation to look at these particular issues that you are tackling, but also how we can think about this and replicate that thought to many other things, right? So ocean, oil spills, just to stay in the water, is not just material that you're collecting in terms of concrete plastic but also any kind of chemicals. I'm assuming that you can find in there, and it's a matter of knowing that they are there, right? But it also makes me think about how you deal with the trash in the cities. We were joking about that before, but it's a big issue. Sometimes I wonder if the truck that goes around and clean the trash, they're so old and polluting that maybe they do much bigger damage than what they should do. So in a way, thinking of like this, how do we apply it more? And do we have now the technologies, the time now to really push on the accelerator and have municipalities all over the world to start having a constant cleaning in the environment instead of the old school, the trash management industry, for example? How replicable is what you're doing? I guess that's That's the question.
Yeah, I think so. I've got a lot that I can say about that.
Good.
I think first of all, one of our challenges as a company that is trying to make an environmental impact. At the same time, we're a for-profit company, so we kind of need money to keep going. But we do have a team that's super passionate about making a big environmental impact. But I think there is a shift, and it is happening, and it's a slow one. Is we don't like paying for people to clean up, or we don't like paying for cleanup services in general. It's not something we like to invest money in. It's not sexy. The value isn't apparent. It's not obvious. And so, something like a waste cleanup solution, whether it's on land or at ocean, in the ocean, can often be seen as a grudge purchase. So that's why I guess you have a company like Ocean Cleanup who is really heavily focused on, I guess, philanthropic kind of endeavor to sustain themselves. Unfortunately, there are enough people who care about the environment to have that philanthropic endeavor. But I think we almost need to somehow commercialize the value of keeping our environment clean, and somehow unleashing that potential. And in terms of our own scalability of our own solution, of course, we would love to see our little WasteShark vessels all over the world. We're always developing things like docking stations and larger format vessels where we can really tackle scope a lot better. I think what robotics and autonomy bring to the scale side of things is that they can operate almost 24/7. And if you're not limited to 8 human hours a day, you're already, able to operate for 3 times longer. And if you're not only limiting yourself to, say, 220 working days a year, but say 330 working days, because maybe some of the days are stormy or there's ice or whatever, you can really start scaling the impact of your solution when you bring autonomy into it. I think the other thing that as a solution provider into cleaning up water that we've realized is people don't always understand that robotics doesn't imply that this thing is going to do everything for you and it's going to make coffee for your team on the side.
No, really?
Unfortunately not.
I'm expecting that from my, the little robot that clean my house. It's like, you're so right. I still have to empty it. I still have to be sure that it's not getting stuff in there. Yeah. It's great, but it ain't doing everything by itself.
Yeah, every now and again, even if it has a docking station, someone's still got to go and take that rubbish out the docking station and put it in the bin.
Well, let's talk a little bit about maybe focus in on smart cities. Obviously, we have a lot of infrastructure that exists. Smart cities are being developed from scratch in a number of places around the world, with the idea that they could be the perfect utopian city, right? Sure. There's still going to be waste, right? And hopefully in those places there will still be water. The solution to eliminating waste in water isn't to eliminate the water, right? The body of water. You still want the water. So I don't know how, maybe it's some of the people you speak to, whether they're in regulatory policy bodies or government entities or nonprofits you work with. How are some of the conversations going that say, this is important? We have a chance to maybe take a step back, think about this differently, and find solutions to these problems, which includes things like the technologies that you offer, but perhaps broader picture solutions as well. Looking at how the waste enters the city in the water and who's putting it there and who's not cleaning it up, and are there ways to incentivize folks? And I don't know, what are some of those conversations like that you're having?
Yeah, I think there's more than ever before. There's a focus on ocean plastic or ocean bound plastic. So plastic that's in rivers and stuff that's going to end up in the ocean. I think just generally the kind of global rhetoric is moving in the right direction. So there's a good appreciation for the problem. I think the US is actually pretty good in terms of creating nationwide policy that applies and almost directs funding and focus on problems like that. A lot of countries aren't like that. We see a lot of local governments who will be captivated by the idea of a robotic waste shark clean trash autonomously from their borders, and they'll have projects that are funded for that kind of thing. I do think there's just not enough critical mass at the moment. But I think, Sean, what you were alluding to was more around maybe the data side of the problem, and just grabbing some intelligence about trash and where it accumulates and how it accumulates. And again, when you're looking at data and you want to draw conclusions from it, I think we all know the more you have, the better. So we're at that point now where we're starting to, I'm speaking really from a Ranmarine perspective, we're starting to try and scale our solution and get as many of our units out there collecting data as well as trash at the same time. And the data can be in the form of images of the trash that we're seeing. And over time, we can potentially, we are developing AI for around image recognition for trash. So it's tough. It's not easy. People think it's easy, and a lot of guys will claim, yeah, they've got AI for trash recognition in maritime spaces, and they may do, and they probably do as we do. We just know that our for example, our AI around trash recognition of trash in a water environment is not nearly accurate enough for us to be able to deploy it to add meaningful value at the time. But I think the point is we know where we want to go. We need to scale that. We need to get lots of data in, and we can start understanding, what am I collecting? Is the problem brand X of polypropylene drinking bottle, or is it this kind of crisp packet, or is it this takeaway franchise that's causing an issue in this area? I think at the moment, even simply understanding where the trash fields are in a particular water environment, where is trash accumulating and how is it related to wind and current? Those are super useful things because they drive massive efficiency in the long run, because you're not going to be sending your drone to areas where trash doesn't accumulate. So the more intelligence you can gain about where the trash actually is super useful. And I think once we start having swarms of these things out there, and when I say swarm, I'm not talking 50 drones, I'm talking maybe 3, 4, 5. They can start communicating with each other. We can use vision AI, or we can even use a sort of trash gauge inside the drone itself to understand how quickly it's getting full, to sort of reach a determination of, I've got lots of trash around me. I'm going to call out to my friends and tell them about this. We have a really nice way of depicting that, or it's very much still in development, but we're kind of thinking our customers would like to see their drones chats with each other as they're out there in the water, saying, hey, I've got some trash here, I've got a 40% battery, does anyone need help, or can I get some help here, or and I think over time.
Do they name their drones, your customers? Do they get names?
All our drones have names.
Nice.
One of my favorite tasks at Ranmarine is to name a drone.
So you name it, or the customer name it? Do you ever give?
The customer always has first option to name a drone. Often they don't. We have Gaston, and we have Leonidas and Nicholas and Bruce. I mean, obviously Bruce. Everyone's going to have a Bruce. we have a Scoop in Dallas. We've every name you can think of. We go there.
Do you know the name of the one in the Hudson River, by chance? Putting you on the spot there.
You are putting me on the spot, yeah. I can try and find that out quickly, actually.
Well, this is our tendency of humanizing our
That's right.
technology. Like, me and my wife, we make fun of we have the the robot that we use to clean, we call it Scooby-Doo. I don't know why, but that's. Did you let Scooby go today? Like, yeah, sure, he went. But I think that's actually, I'm going to go a little bit sociological and psychological here, because I like that idea that the robot, the machine, it becomes part of our life. And I think that when we humanize it, and we're not talking about having, the Jetson type of robot in your house, we're talking about something that is going to work 24/7, resolve the problem, and become part of the environment. I have a good example here. I mean, I'm in LA, so once in a while, especially if you go, in Hollywood or so, you'll see the little delivery robot. I've seen a ton in campus of UCLA, because they just go and deliver what they do, and all the students, it's not even fun anymore. It's just become part of the day life to see this delivery robot that arrives where you need to go. You scan something, you open the container, you get your food, and it goes back away. So I see these as a part of an entire change in our culture, in the way that we look at these things. And I'm also going to comment it, and then I'll let you go, with the fact that I like that while they do something, why not do something else, right? So where there is more than one utility, I'm thinking a traffic light or a light, like a lamp in the street. They're collecting environmental information, traffic. There's a camera. It's not just lighting up the street. So any kind of this technology could potentially deliver so much more than what the original promise was.
Absolutely. And, so if I'm honest, I think one of the things that challenges us from time to time is you might have a local government authority, they'll buy some kit from us, and maybe it's a senior manager in an organization who kind of really buys into the vision of having an autonomous drone cleaning up waste. And then perhaps that gets used in an environment where you've got a team of guys who now have to deploy the thing, clean it out, and really engage with it. And actually, maybe that's difficult for them, or they don't understand the technology, and they just rather want to go out in their boat and collect the trash with nets. So, and we've found that the customers that we have that are getting the most value out of their drones actually see their drones as key team members. We have a customer, big theme park in Florida, won't mention any names, but they've got a couple of our drones working in their theme parks, and they are fantastic customers because they understand that this is a team member. And again, it's obviously humanizing the robot a little bit, but they really engage with it, and they also understand that there is a human effort involved as well. But
Do they call it Mickey?
There's some ducks involved. They've got 3 drones named after some famous ducklings. But going back to your observation around data, with smart cities, we've seen fantastic companies in the US that are utilizing traffic information. They're able to prioritize emergency vehicles. They're able to really control traffic around schools, that kind of thing. And I think, from our perspective, what we're doing on the WasteShark is obviously completely different. We're gathering data about, we can tell customers when their drones are operating, how often they're operating. We can give you aggregated reporting over time to say, you've covered this many miles on so many missions and collected so much waste in that time. I think that's kind of useful intelligence. But as we get more and more usage data over time, we can really get more intelligence. But added on to that is the fact that you now have a floating platform in the water. It's collecting trash, but that floating platform becomes a sensor platform. You can start collecting environmental data about water quality, for example. You can start measuring the impact of removing trash from the water on the quality of that water. And again, I refer back to the US being kind of world leaders in this sense. And I know recently there's been some legislation passed around the use of monitoring PFAs in drinking water. And PFAs are these sort of harmful chemical substances that we kind of fear might not be good for human health. And and to have a floating platform that can move around, and currently we don't have the technology to measure PFAS except in a laboratory, but we'll have a sensor for PFAS that can move around and stuff. But I think just the value of collecting lots and lots of data over a lot of time starts helping you understand some variables that might be related. We really envisage in time being able to predict when big lakes might have harmful algal blooms, for example. And algal blooms are a super big issue everywhere. On the one hand, we've got technology that can clean up that algae from the surface of the water, which is great. But why not collect information while we're cleaning up trash, which says, hang on, I'm seeing some variables here that tell me a bloom is on its way. And potentially there's some interventions we can do before we have this harmful bloom and we kill off thousands of fish in a lake. It's all really interesting stuff. But ultimately, I think I go back to I think the notion of robots augmenting human endeavor is an interesting concept to think about philosophically. Sometimes we expect a little too much of our robots. And there's no doubt. I mean, I think we've all been seeing what ChatGPT's been doing in the last few weeks. I'm just astounded. I'm worried that my job's going to be taken over at some point by ChatGPT. But that again, that relies on masses and masses and masses and masses of data to be as good as it is.
Yeah, and I think if we shoot for the holy grail of AI and robotics, that it has to look like the Jetsons or nothing. And I think we missed the point and we missed the plot both.
Yeah.
And I think very specialized to start to solve a real problem is super important. Proof of concepts that actually do something good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are super cool. And I looked up I couldn't find the name for the Hudson drone, but the Hudson River drone is employed by the Hudson River
the Hudson River Trust. Yeah.
Yep. And they're using it for waste pickup, primarily plastics. They list a ton of plastics that it's capturing, but they're also using it with some sensors to do some geospatial analysis and also water quality analysis. So to your point, it's not just out there picking up trash, it's using that to collect information that the park system presumably can use to help find ways to make the water better. And of course, it's not just in their area, right? That water enters a certain way and leaves a certain way, and hopefully they're making it cleaner as it heads downstream, which in this case goes to the ocean.
That brings me a question, Sean, and I'll start. How customizable are these? Because we always think that, we make one robot and it's going to be good for everywhere. But in this case, we have a case study where maybe like, we would like to monitor this thing. We need it because we have this kind of problem versus this other kind of problem. So how is customization working with your kind of product?
Yeah, I mean, I have a very clear view on the nature of complexity and trying to please everybody. I think something that drives complexity, and I'm not saying it's a bad or a good thing. I'm just saying complexity is a function of differentiated human requirements or requests of technology. So systems become complicated because we want to cater for a whole bunch of stuff. So one of my jobs and our team's jobs is to kind of weigh up how much customizability are we going to allow, because ultimately we've got to build these things and we've got to support them in the long term. So we have some interesting debates about what we should make customizable or not. I guess what we're getting to a point now of doing is we want to kind of unify. We don't want to have a distinction between an only remote control drone and an autonomous drone. We want to have a single platform, and then, like with everybody else and what everyone else is doing, we're going to start charging additional if you want to unlock certain features. So every drone we send out is autonomous, but you can only use it in maybe, let's say, handheld operator mode. And if that suits your use case and you don't need to pay the additional premium for the autonomous function, we'll allow that, and we'll make that all software driven. The other thing is, I think when it comes to environmental sensing, particularly around water quality, there are some sensors that every drone needs to be able to move around, LiDARs and GPSs and IMUs and those kinds of things. Every drone will have that. When it comes to environmental sensors, it's tricky because people want to use potentially different sensors to measure for different things. So we're having quite a lot of thinking about how we can make our tech sensor ready. And we've looked at water quality sensor options. You can go and buy really cheap water sensors for home projects and stuff, but it's either that or going and buying really, really expensive stuff that's super accurate, but it needs to be calibrated, it needs to be curated and maintained. And that's not for all of our customers. All of our customers don't necessarily want that. But what we want to do is we want to have a platform that if a guy says, actually, I'd like a decent quality water sensor, we can just ship one over, and it's super easy for that guy just to plug it into a shark, and it works. So those are the kinds of things that we're working on at the moment to really try and simplify the customer experience, but at the same time simplify our ability to sustain things like support and for our products in the long term.
Yeah, I guess is a balance. I remember a few years ago I was in Sydney, actually, if I remember well, and they already had robotic grass cutter.
Yeah,
that they were going in certain area, and they will know how to recognize, of course, to stop if somebody's in the middle or not get on the path, because they know that that you don't want to do that, blades on stones and gravels and anything like that. So, but also now that I'm talking to you, I'm thinking like, how many other things could that thing do there in monitoring, not the water, but maybe the terrain, the soil, I don't know, recognize if there are 65 squirrels instead of, birds. And I'm just thinking, you just put a camera on top and who knows what you can do with it.
I mean, Marco, that is our challenge at Ranmarine, because essentially we have a vessel that collects trash off the water. It's simple physics. It's not complicated stuff. But you also have a platform.
Mm-hmm.
You can put a whole bunch of stuff on it, and you can do all kinds of things with it. And we're constantly getting pulled into different directions. We could do noise monitoring. We could even do like wind turbine monitoring with an acoustic camera to understand if there's bearing noise in a wind turbine, offshore that maybe needs maintenance. Or we could do underwater monitoring to look at fish stocks and understand sort of biomass changes in fish stocks and sea life and that kind of thing. We can, in Amsterdam, one of the big issues we have is people. It's not an issue. It's a national tradition to throw your bicycle in the canals of Amsterdam when you finish university. So we could be finding bicycles, and we've been approached by people to do all kinds of different things. So I mean, our big things are really. I mean, I'm always open to any kind of sensor integration. Customer might need to understand, he pays for a bit of integration, but we do kind of need to understand how we support them in the long term. But our big things are water quality data, cleaning stuff out of the water, and that's oil, trash, and unwanted biomass, as we call it, or algae, invasive plants and stuff.
That's cool. It really made me think to a lot of other applications.
Well, my key takeaway here is I know what I have to do next time I'm in Amsterdam. I'm going to have to buy a bike just so I can throw it in the canal.
Yeah, you can just buy yourself a super... You can probably find a student just before he's about to throw his or her bike in the canal and just get it off them for a couple of bucks.
I didn't know that. I have no idea there was a tradition.
Actually, I shouldn't be saying that. It's not quite as prolific as I'm making it out to be. But my goodness, there are a lot of bicycles.
But there are a lot of bicycles in the canal. Yeah,
there are a lot of bicycles in the canal.
I can see that. Yeah.
Course,
Actually, I have to say that
I will ride a bike along the canal.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been in Amsterdam a few times, but Rotterdam always been on my radar, and I never made it there. But it's definitely a city I wanna visit, and I'll check on the bikes instead of renting one. I'll just fish one out.
Well, bring your bike over to the office, so we can have a nice cup of coffee and talk about robotics and AI and how it can do good for the world.
I would love that. I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and on that note, I want to thank you, Alistair, for joining us. I know it took a little time to get this scheduled, but well worth the wait. And glad to hear your story and that of Ranmarines and this technology and the potential AI and robotics have on the grander scale, on the bigger stage, if you will. And for everybody listening, there'll be notes in the podcast episode here on your favorite podcast player, of course, and as well as YouTube. And anything else that Alistair, I'm gonna link to the work that the drone's doing in Hudson Park. I'll include that in the notes, for example. And then anything else Alistair wants to share, we can share with folks through the notes. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and share it with your friends, family, friends, maybe even more friends. And stay tuned for more episodes of Redefining Society. I think I closed your show for you, Marco. How's that?
It's your show too. Mi casa, su casa. Thank you, Alistair. Enjoy it.
Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this podcast, share ITSP Magazine with your friends, family, and colleagues. Thank you for listening.